All right, so welcome everyone. Welcome to another episode of Stars and Suits with your host Dee at the Woo of Wall Street and Ty from Ty in the Cards. Today we have some really interesting stuff for you all. We thought we will start with a outlook, an overview for Q2, since it is April after all, and the second quarter of this financial year started, and very interesting price action and moves are about to ensue now that we have Mars in Aries, and we're going to have pretty soon Venus in Taurus. And so we're going to have a lot of really important information to share. So we'll start with that and then we'll go into our weekly session per usual. So with that in mind, let's get started. How you doing, Ty?
I'm doing well, D. Yeah, hi everyone. Another week in the books. We had some, not so peaceful peace talks over the weekend. Send the charts in a different direction. But also that two of clubs weekly energy that we talked about last week, you know, can be the card of communication, but also the card of arguing. And I think we definitely saw quite a bit of that last week.
It's also the card of rebalancing, right? And so
Yeah, exactly. It's rebalancing as well. So it's like
the balance
because
act.
exactly, it's that seesaw that two creates. So it's like it can be lopsided at times. It's not always a perfect balance, but basically what that two is trying to achieve is hopefully balance.
Yeah, exactly. And we talked about, last week we also talked about the weekend, not trusting some of what we would see over the weekend. So, we had that sort of move up on Saturday. And with Neptune becoming a player this week, it's a little bit of the deception, right? It's like the illusion, the speculative uh moves that become false signals. So it's not unexpected. We also had a Mars Pluto square that we talked about last week as well. And what most people don't understand is that even though squares are negative transits, they do have a positive aspect, or part of the aspect would be positive. So that's why we saw, as it was peaking this weekend, some potential upside, but that it was going to get rejected hard. And I did mention that last week, as well as gave a reminder over the weekend, even though I was supposed to be off this weekend. I'm never off. I always say I'm going to go off. I always say I'm going to take some time out. And then here we are back into play. Um, which we were talking right off camera about today's graphics, which I'm always so grateful for you because you have such a gift for design for sure. I love always the graphics you put together for us, and they always so in alignment with what's about to ensue and what we're about to talk about. And you know, and it's such a coincidence. Well, we know there's no coincidence in this world, right? But it's like in perfect alignment with the energies with Pluto, having that sort of darkness and mystic hue to it. And then you have the red for Mars and the blues and greens for Neptune. So very appropriate for this week's astrology. So thank you, Ty.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I have a blast putting these all together, and it's just a lot of the times when we're talking about these things, a lot of it is math and it's cycles on top of each other, and it's like bringing imagery into this in any way, whether we're talking about time or we're talking about like the motifs of the different planets or like different positions. Adding that imagery just helps so much. Like I'm a super visual learner. I assume there's a lot of visual learners out there too. So yeah,
Yeah.
an honor to put this together and put these together and hopefully, yeah, everyone gets a little bit more understanding out of these subjects from it.
It always fascinates me how people have, um, different people who find their craft early in life, um, really get to explore and enjoy the work that they do over, their lifetimes. Me, I didn't find my craft early on. I was sort of pushed into an academic route very early on. As you may know, maybe from friends or things like that, like when you're, first generation immigrant, your parents usually tend to make you focus on success, on education and achievement because, they work hard to come here and help you, succeed and make something of yourself and be a positive influence in society. So I never really got to experience my, you know, like my true gift or my true source until later in life. And I've always admired people like you who get to do that every day. You know,
Well, it is definitely a blessing. I'm very, very thankful. Yeah, I was always I painted and drew and was always just into computers and stuff since a very young age. So it's like all of those things kind of came together into digital art. So yeah. Um yeah, so if you guys don't know, that's like my day job is digital art.
that's your thing.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I just think it's such a blessing. And yeah, I'm super reflective today because you just did my life spread for this card reading that you did for me over the weekend. And I don't know, I mean, I've always find it fascinating how, the cards and astrology match. Um, but it just let me think really hard about where I am and about this year. And there was so many interesting things to think about and to kind of like tease through for this year. So I'm looking forward to getting you know, my PDF and just going over it again and maybe planning some parts of my year around it. It validated a lot of what I was feeling. So for anyone who doesn't know, Ty does readings in live spreads and yearly spreads and seasonal spreads, which actually kind of goes into what we're talking about today. So today we're going to talk about the Q2 um, as an overview outlook before we get into our weekly session. So it's a special, very special episode today. And yeah, so you typically do a seasonal spread for that, right?
Right.
Ty, and
Yeah.
so I'll be doing something similar. So in astrology and financial astrology, there's something similar you can do. There's seasonalities, just like the farmer's almanac. You can do a financial almanac as well. And you just look at seasonally what is in suit, right? So we'll do a little bit of that today, just a little taste, because we can do a whole um, report on that for an hour. I think we will put you guys to sleep. So we'll just give you a little taste of that, and then we'll get into the weekly, and then we'll go from there. You want
Yeah.
to share more about that, Ty?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We'll jump right in. And yeah, thanks for drawing that correlation between, yeah, there is basically a astrology seasonal spread, an almanac, like you said, and then also a seasonal spread in the cards. Also want to say, yeah, it was truly an honor to do a reading for you. Because yeah, it's just I think what's most powerful about the cards is even if these are things that you feel like you're kind of thinking about or new or whatever, it provides that way of like lateral thinking where like you see it from a different perspective, which it really unlocks things. And then timing your year on the cards can be really fun too. But hey, what if you're like, what the heck is this guy even talking about? Like the cards? Like, what is this guy even doing? So I want to give you guys just a little backstory what this is. And so basically the deck of playing cards has a perfect synchronization with the calendar. There's 52 cards in the deck, 52 weeks in the year. There's 4 suits, there's 4 seasons, there's 13 weeks in each season, 13 cards in each suit. There's 7 cycles of 52-day periods in the year. Why 7 cycles? Well, there's 7 days in the week and there's 7 visible planets. And when you add all the cards together, it makes 364. And then you add the Joker and it makes 365. So our birthdays are then governed by specific cards. So the month and the day that we're born determine our birth card. And you can find your birth card right here in this table. And then from that card, we have a life path that is delineated in this grid that's called the life spread. And so the cards that sit next to us and around us in this spread, like give us the attributes, the planetary attributes of the energy and the cards that make up who we are as our primary card or our sun card or our birth card. And so when we're talking about Bitcoin today, so Bitcoin is 17 years old. So every year we actually shuffle this grid another time in a process that's called quadration, which is basically fancy word for making a circle a square. And we basically rotate the circle every year, like a big clock. And so on the 17th year, we have a different spread. But just to make things easy, I just laid out the planetary cards that Bitcoin has going on. So these cards in each planetary position are illustrating a different aspect of, like, if Bitcoin was a person, it'd be like the psyche or the life path or like the inner world of Bitcoin. It also delineates periods of time. How long? Well, 52 days, of course. So 52 days, 7 times makes 364. And then you add the Joker, 365. So right now, in February, we started the Venus cycle for Bitcoin. And we're actually going to be closing it out this week on Thursday. So the 7 of Hearts, which we've been playing this time, is during this time is a card of spiritual tests, as we've seen as we nuked 30%. You know
Yeah,
what I
it's
mean?
like literally testing our patience. And
Yeah, exactly.
it's on Venus too. It's testing its value, its worth.
Exactly. Yeah. And being in the Venus position is, yeah, super significant because, yeah, we're testing the value, the perceived worth of this asset. That's what we're doing here in this 7 of Hearts area. But looking ahead, so starting on, I believe the 17th is Thursday. So Thursday, we start with the 9 of Diamonds. So the 9 of Diamonds, all nines, and you see we have another one coming up. But yeah, the all nines are cards of completion and release. It could be a card of what could be considered like a disappointment. But basically, when we're talking about an asset like Bitcoin, to me, what the 9 of Diamonds is kind of pointing to is like old tech insufficiencies, anything that's unsustainable about Bitcoin. Maybe it's the price action, maybe it's institutions, but something that's unsustainable has to either compete in this period or it will be or it will die. Basically, it has to be pruned. So that's like the embodiment of the 9 of Diamonds is like the giver. It's the release of value, it's the surrender of value. And so positively though, the nine is all nines are wishes. So it's like the completion of a wish. So like if you think about on the opposite end of things, so like if you have a bunch of Bitcoin or whatever, and then you lose it, okay, well, that would be a nine. That would be the release, the completion of a cycle. But not having something and then gaining it, that's also a nine because it's a completion of a cycle. It's the release of not having. So it can also be positive. But in this particular planetary position, being in Mars, being a period of high volatility, restructuring, like aggression, I could see just this being kind of a time of scattered innovation, and we're resetting, but it's defensive. It's a defensive sort of reset, and we're culminating for these next planetary cycles that are coming down the line. So what's really cool is like inside of this yearly cycle, we can actually then go deeper into that seasonal cycle and give us more cards and more context into a smaller frame of time. But I'm going to stop there in case you got anything before I jump in.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. And what does it tell you when it's on Mars? Because, it's in the Mars position.
Mhm.
So what would you say with regards to that? And then I can add a little bit about this April 17th date.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm seeing, especially being in Mars, it's going to be like exaggerated. You know what I mean? Exaggerated, aggressive, volatile. You know what I mean? Like, it's. I think that some of the moves that we could encounter and again, we're talking about 52 days here. Like this is a long time, but it's like some of the moves that we could encounter here could like throw some people like into like worry or despair, and I think that
Right.
that's like kind of the test. That's the test of this card right here, because it isn't ending, but it's also not the beginning yet. The ace is the beginning, so it's like this is the process of ending, and sometimes the process of ending, no matter what it is, can be scary.
Yeah, that makes sense. And we also have on April 17th, we have the new moon coming up. And it's the new moon in Aries. So, it's a very intentional moon, and like Aries associated with Mars as well. So both fire, and it's going to be a very intense day, and it is going to be testing, but it's the start of a new opportunity. Just like in tarot, the nine of coins would be related to something like this. And,
Mhm.
the nine of coins comes after the seven of coins, which is when you work hard towards a goal, to achieve that goal. You have passed the manifestation state and you're more into the building of that dream, right? The solid, the ethereal to the solid. Um, and then you embark on the eight of coins, and then you reach the nine of coins, taking you um into that position of of the final stage of the build, right? And so before you see it really blossom. And that's really interesting that it all happens around, a time when you have a new moon where you're seedling things, you are putting the seed into the ground, you're building, you're wishing upon the stars, so to speak, right? You're starting a new cycle once again, and that's the new cycle once now Mercury has entered his bullish phase. So despite whatever we see on that day, which people will be you know mildly disappointed that we're not seeing price move out of this range just yet, but it's only the beginning of what's to come, and patience will be tested. And I think that's very indicative of a nine of coins. So it's kind of interesting you said that.
Yeah, definitely a card to test patience. And also, it's like all odd numbered cards are going to be cards of movement. So it's like, although it is an end, it's like it's a process. Like you said, it's a process of ending. It's not just a stagnant like tombstone in the ground. You know what I mean? It's like this
Yeah.
is it's a process. And so yeah, always whenever we see that in any spread, and when we get into the seasonal cycle here, you'll see that too. So even cards are always cards of stability and balance of some sort, and then odd numbered cards are always cards of change. So yeah, getting into Bitcoin. So we split the year into four, and so by multiplying the age of Bitcoin 17 by four, and then actually adding one season because we've made it through a quarter of the year as Bitcoin. We are now in the second season of its 17th year. So the second season, because it's split into four, instead of using planets, we use the suits. So we're in a club cycle for 91 days. So from April 3rd to July 2nd, we're in this 91-day club cycle. So right now, we're in a Mercury 13-day cycle. And we've had the five of diamonds. So the five of diamonds is the exploration of value through the five senses. It can be like the salesman card. It's very adaptable. And basically when we apply that to Bitcoin, we saw a very agile adaptation to the big dump that we had basically. So we had the adaptation to market feedback and also a lot of scattered narratives. That's another thing that's indicative
About
of
the
the five.
fives, yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Scattered
In
narratives,
in the mental
headlines.
in the mental position at that. So a lot of a lot of thoughts and news flying everywhere, pulling people in all directions. I see the five as like, like spread out, two arms up, two legs down, so it's like everything everywhere.
Everything everywhere and fast because it's Mercury. So it's just like, I mean, I don't even remember what day it was, like last week or something. I was just, every time I checked, I think it was just like one of those feeds that just is blitzing news all day. You know
Yeah,
what I
like
mean? It's just one
war
of those
on,
bots.
war off, war
Yeah,
on, war
that's
off.
that's exactly what was going on. And I was just like, this is crazy. Like, this is insane. But that's the
Yeah.
confusion that is, very indicative of the time that we're in, where it's just like, it's the confusion and the noise level is cranked up so high because I think that's kind of the point, you know.
Yeah. That's interesting. Love it.
So yeah, we're in the five right now, and yeah, been adapting well. So then moving ahead. So this will be Wednesday. So now we move into the eight of spades. So the eight of spades is the eight of eights. It's all the eights combined into one. So it makes it a powerhouse basically. And this is the card of overcoming, and it's the card of the card of healing. Um,
Isn't that something? Go back to the last spread and check out
yep.
how on the 17th, right, is the
Hmm.
card of the ending of the season, well as in Mars with driven force, right?
Hmm.
And then we have now in the seasonal spread, we have literally the day before is the sort of the like the card of in tarot, we call the card of the solution, right? Like you think of deception, like you think it's over, but it's not. And you're the only one that's kind of covering your own eyes. It's like, you can lift the veil and see through it. Um, so I think it's really interesting. Like we're going to start to see some changes, and people are still going to be like not self-aware until, maybe they
Yeah,
take
and
control of their own,
I,
of their
I'm
own
totally
vision.
with you. I'm totally with you because it's like that when I look at that eight of swords in the tarot too, it's just like the only limit is your own mind or your own perception. And so it's like I think this could be some sort of like lifting of the veil in a way, but also this could be a time of like developments that build like long-term credibility. So it's like in a way where it's like you think of that. I wish I had the card up to show everybody, but basically the Eight of Swords is, I believe it's a woman standing there like in a circle of swords,
Surrounded
and
by swords, yeah.
yeah, and it looks like she's trapped, but she's like not really trapped because the bandana over her eyes is loose and the swords are spread out. So like what it's trying to show is that it's just like whatever your mental limitation is, that's your only limitation. So it's like that can also be like a card of, yeah, a lot of work in planning. This is also a workaholic card as well because it's just pure power. And so you can you can see how if you turn that power inward, it's like you start formulating this like long-term plan, this grind, basically, this grind forward of like I'm breaking out of this in a way. And so we'll have like 13 days of that. It's almost like if Bitcoin was a person, Bitcoin would be working overtime, like putting in 70 hours a week, like just going for it, just to get out of their shitty
Just
apartment or something.
just to
Yeah.
get just to get out of the rut. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. But that's so interesting. And it is happening as Venus is moving into her sign pretty soon. Where she's more comfortable in Taurus, right? She's exalted there. She's more, she's stronger and more powerful. So her energy is more expressed and with more confidence. And it's very indicative of what we're going to see, specifically, on that day. But of course, we still have a new moon, so gotta proceed with caution. But
Yeah.
but it's the beginning for sure. It's it's almost like the beginning of the end before the beginning.
Yeah, no, that's it. That's definitely it. And it's like kind of the general theme here is like it is like defensive, but we have this very powerful king at the end, which it's that really sets the tone for this next cycle, which then we move into the diamond cycle. So diamond is obviously value, material gain, harvest. And so right now we're in growth, stability, planning, authenticity. That's what the clubs are all about. So you can kind of see like the cycles in which we're in when you split the year into quarters.
Yeah, and for those that are joining us a little bit late, just so you know, we're not doing the weekly spread right now, guys. This is the seasonal cycle. Okay,
Mhm.
it means that every card stands for a period of time, not just for the day that the card transitions into. So, from the 16th to the 29th, right? The eighth of sword is going to be present and embodying its full expression. So it's, yeah, thank you, Ty. It's a 13-day, and of course 13, right? Lucky
Yeah.
13. Um, it's a 13-day period where that energy rules. And so what we're doing today is we're giving you a taste of what a seasonal spread can look like for a person or an asset. And I'll be chiming in with the energy for the astrology for this season as well. So basically quarter two overview for all of you today. So definitely take notes. And if you can't take notes today, then definitely rewatch this stream and take some notes because we're going to be giving some really good info.
Yeah, thanks, Dee. Yeah, totally. Yeah, thank you for the clarification. There's multiple different cycles you can look at in cardology. Yeah, today we're looking at the 91-day seasonal cycle. So yeah, so then in April we're gonna move into the Mars period with the Seven of Clubs. So Seven of Clubs, this could be around like again, this is communication. So it could be things like messaging, mental initiatives, things like they're it's going to be a rebranding of how Bitcoin is perceived, so to speak. But we're talking on not on a macro level. We're talking on like the 13-day cycle where it's like you could see like some sort of narrative reset. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like a positive thing. Like this could be something where we're licking our wounds or we're getting tired of the grind that we've just went through and like we could see some new narratives. I see like form around Bitcoin. Um, and so it could cause conflict, it could cause overstimulated hype and also disappointment because it's like this is
Yeah.
the seven isn't like there's not a lot of foundation there. It's like this is shocking energy. It's like it's quick. It's quick sparks of like ideas basically that is trying to shift the course, but none of these are really going to land. But they are going to be like volatile in a way.
Yeah, it's literally the 13 days prior to the biggest volatility that we're going to have.
Yeah.
So it's going to happen, like it's definitely gonna be electric and you know, s- like you say, sparkling or electrifying or whatever it was that you wanted to use. But it's in a Mars position, so it's gonna come with force. It's just not going to start right off the bat. But in the midst of it, in the middle of it, you will see what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You won't miss it. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. So then we move into the Jupiter cycle, which is great because the Jupiter cycle is all about expansion and growth. And here with the Four of Hearts, this is the card of like emotional stability. It's also like a family card. So when we're talking about like Bitcoin, it would be like strong community growth. Like, would
Like
it
jumping
be,
on board.
yep, exactly. Jumping on
Jumping
board.
on
Like,
board,
I
expensive Jupiter. Wink,
get,
wink.
yeah,
May
get
12th through May 16th. Wink, wink.
wink, wink. Yeah, exactly. Very, yeah. Definitely watch this time. This will be the time when you see everyone on CT basically be like, I have been long the whole time.
Yes, that's the card
It's,
right there.
yeah, this is it.
All
Yeah.
of the receipts or quote unquote receipts are going to start to come out. I knew we were bullish the whole time.
Yep.
Blah, 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 blah. I'm taking profits, yada, yada.
Yep. That's exactly this card because it's also the card of loyalty. So it's just like, yeah, it's just like loyalty, price expansion. Like,
Yeah, like I
yeah,
was
everyone's
loyal
jumping
to
on
this
board.
the whole time. I knew this was gonna happen. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So, yeah,
it's
definitely a
great.
time to watch for.
I love these seasonal spreads. They're the best.
Yeah, it's cool, and it gives you a little bit. It gives, yeah, a little bit more granular look into the time periods because yeah, it's just like 52 days is a long time. Like I don't know what I did 52 days ago. That's a long time ago. Um.
I can't even
So
remember what I
yeah,
had for lunch. Come on.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I have to take notes for everything. I can't fit anything more in my like memory. Like if I push something in one ear, it just comes out the other. Like I can't I can't retain anything anymore.
I feel you. Oh man.
It's all better be on paper.
Yeah,
Hence why we have like slides, because I can't do it without the slides.
totally. And how would I expect anyone to listen and follow along like without
For
them too?
real.
'Cause- yeah.
For real. It's definitely better than looking at us.
Yeah, you don't want to look at us. So yeah, then moving into Saturn. So Saturn. So after everyone's jumping on board, now we have the Six of Diamonds, which is the card of harmony, as I like to call it, but it's like the card of balance. So like this
The give and
is,
take. Yep.
yep, the give and take, the balance, like basically this like this
The
expansive, huge expanse.
retest.
Yep, exactly. Retest energy because it's like now we got to rebalance like how we just, it feels like we're gonna go
Like
parabolic, and
how
now
we
we got to.
bolted.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And now we gotta cool off for, 2 weeks or so.
Yeah.
But the thing here is the Six of Diamonds is also the card of karma. So it kind of sets up where we're going because this is karmic balance and completion. So it kind of sets the stage for transformation if there's powerful transformation cards coming like further down in the spread. Well, look at this. We have a card of transformation next in Uranus.
And is
So,
in Uranus.
yeah, exactly. Yep. So
Can't make that shit up.
yeah, crazy because this is so again, five of spades, talked about before. This can be like the card of the victor. In on the old French cards, it said he who loses pays on the five of spades. This can be a card of conflict, but this can also be a card of just like sudden changes, disruption. Um, and in spades, we're talking about all of the suits. So we're talking about everything at once, which makes the spades cards very powerful. So we're talking about a big, big disruptive change here during this period. And so this is going to be restless shifts, both
Yeah.
directions, like
Yeah.
rapid, rapid energy, because this is the most like the most rapid energy when it comes to a number on a card in the most rapid and erratic planetary
Yeah.
position in the spread. So yeah,
Yeah.
this will be a wild time.
But what's interesting about this is when I see those three cards together, the four of hearts, the six of diamonds, and the five of spades is what I'm saying. And this is where symbology comes in. This is like my favorite part. So I see this as like, you have like the youngster at home being left alone and partying from May 12th until May 25th. Then you have dad coming home from the work trip, finding the house trash, and then like grounding your ass for 2 weeks for being an idiot. And then like everything calms down, everything is cool, and then all of a sudden that leaves again and the party goes on. So,
Yep,
you
that's
know,
exactly. Yep.
right. And so you have like this energy that's gonna just come from nowhere in like June, and then people are going to be like, oh, I thought we were like so over. It's like we're back, we're so back, we're so over, we're so back,
It's
like
exactly that cycle. Yeah.
it's like crazy. It's gonna be interesting those 3 months. I mean, those 2 months, just like back to back for those three cards. So just you gotta stay on your toes. But like every time we get those surges, like just don't be afraid to take profit because this is gonna be. It looks like a long time, right? Like April through July, but this energy is gonna come at us fast and it's going to fade just as quickly. So
Definitely. And it's like, just because it's going to be four of hearts for 13 days, it doesn't mean we're going to be just like straight up green candles for 13 days straight. You know what I mean? It's like,
right,
yeah, this is the general energy of that roughly 2 week period.
yeah.
So, like you said, the party goes on. Yes, it continues. Basically, it's almost like if like the I don't know, like the stereo was switched off, and then Dad just left, and then you just like flip it back on, and everyone like comes out from under the rug and everything like that. Like that's exactly
Everybody
what
comes
happens.
from under the rug, from behind the couch,
Yeah,
from the
yeah,
closets.
yep. So
Not
yeah,
speaking
Dad
from
Saturn
experience
leaves.
or anything.
See some good hiding spots, that's for sure. Um,
Oh God.
So the party continues, and then Neptune. So Neptune is, it's a planet of it can be your dreams and illusions and spirituality, and it's kind of like mystical in a way. And here we have the super powerful King of Clubs. So again, we're in a club cycle, and now we have the King of Clubs. So he's the master of communication, authority, systems, foundation. That's his realm. And so now playing this card at the end of this cycle here in Neptune, we're looking at like almost like overhype. Like we're looking at like a magical type aura in a way, but also utility coming from Bitcoin because like we're talking about illusory sort of like feelings in a way. And so what I see here is like this is almost like the Moon Boys come back out. Like it's meme coin season. You know what I mean? It's like the pump fun stuff like kicks off
Yeah,
because it's like, oh my God, we're so back. We've been back the whole time. Everything kicks back off, like the on-chain stuff kicks back off. And
yeah.
we could see a little hype cycle
It's
there.
a very speculative hype type of environment. And you have the king of the suit that we are in the season of. So it's like,
Yeah,
we're gonna end with a bang type of thing.
definitely end
This
with a
is
big
like the
bang.
blow off top energy or the start of a blow off top energy.
And it's going to come at us fast too. Yeah, like you said, because yeah, we're talking shorter periods of time here. Um, but yeah, and then we'll move into the diamond cycle, and yeah, we'll get into that. Yeah, next quarter we'll
Next
take a look
quarter.
at the diamond cycle.
Yep. So
But yeah,
and
overall energy, defensive sort of rebirth, like value adjustments here at the beginning, defending, we're balancing things out, and then party time round two. That's kind of what I'm seeing.
exactly, exactly. I love it. Thank you for sharing that. That was so insightful.
Yeah, thank you.
That was so good. I really appreciate that. Why don't we look at the slides that I have for the quarter? And then we'll talk about that one.
Oh, okay. So this one.
Hmm.
Perfect.
Okay, so just like what Ty just did for us there with the season, right? So in astrology, we can follow the sun cycle, or the heliocycle for understanding how the seasons work, in terms of like critical tops and critical bottoms, right? And so like the first graph you have there is basically more of a heliocentric view of where you can find tops and bottoms for a particular month. And it's also related to the ingress of that month. And so what does that all mean? So, a heliocentric view is when we use the sun's perspective. So if we were almost standing on the sun's surface, looking at the universe, and understanding the movement of the planets from that perspective, it's a much more smoother view of the motion of the celestial bodies, right? And so what we're looking at that point is cycles of, planetary movement. Let's say we're looking at Jupiter and uh, Saturn's cycle, right? And so when we're looking at it from a heliocentric perspective, it has less volatility, so to speak, less turning points, less we're not looking at retrogrades, for example, right? So it can help us pinpoint a better overview of what we're going to see. I'll give you a perfect example. So over there, you can see the 2025 cycle where we had a top in July. And back then I was talking about we were we forecasted, when I say we, I mean in my feed, I forecasted the Mercury bullish cycle from April 20th until July. And in my group and my followers, we took that really extensive long. And even though on April 6th, it was the true low of that season, and we still had one more bump in September, that in October that took us down into quarter three. Uh Basically, July was a technical high. And so I believe that the highs we got after that were more manipulation, out of range for taking the highs of July and May and then bringing us into the lows that we experienced at the end of, quarter three and quarter four. So that being said, right, going back to the seasonal overviews and the seasonal forecast. So I tend to take a look in the heliocentric perspective for those larger moves, larger overviews, because even though there might be volatility and um, flush events and crashes and things of that nature, it still gives you a pretty good straightforward path of what to do as an investor rather than day-to-day trading or focusing on these more micro moves, which I talk about in my feed. So that being said, right, for this year, looking at the more heliocentric perspective for quarter two, right? April opens what I like to call the post-eclipse recovery quarter, right? So March delivers February was a given low, but March is sort of where the energy pivot, right? And so for me, March delivered, a critical low, and we've been climbing towards this now April defensive stand into a what I would like to see a July annual peak again. And we will have, ups and downs and, tops and retraces along the way. But if I were to just look at more of a smooth transition, sort of cutting down the noise, that will be the path that I would be looking at. And so this week with that new moon um in Aries, right? It marks that critical seed moment for the quarter ahead. And you, Ty, kept talking about Neptune and that dissolution energy. It's because it's going to be testing our vision, okay? And it's going to be testing it in two ways. One, when it conjuncts Mars, and the other one when it conjuncts Mercury. And so again, it's going to be testing that drive of, are we in it to win it, so to speak, right? Are we truly believers in what this quarter is going to provide for us? And and are we going to believe the news? Are we going to believe the tweets? Are we going to stick to our conviction and be rewarded for that, right? And so from April to June, it's where I see that Phoenix sort of recovery phase, okay, of the annual cycle. And then from there, so for April, right, it's going to still be defensive, as you've seen, right? We climb, we lose the footing. We climb, we lose the footing. And there's going to be a time when we might even sweep some of these lows again to retest these levels before we, break above that 72 and sustain it, right? Because every time we climb slightly above it, we lose it again. But we're gonna very soon see that final breakout and sustainability of those moves. And so May is when that is going to start occurring. So positioning yourself, in March, which, I talked about with my private clients, from March 25th on was a much safer area of DCA. And then, from there into now this April defensive stand, like you said, the sevens, right? That's going to take us into May where now longs can be more solidified. But, it's still the beginning of May, the first week specifically is going to be very volatile. There's going to be a lot of flush because it's going to be clearing out, so to speak, the draw. If you go back to your seasonal Ty, and you're going to be able to see what we talked about, right? Like that so April 29th is going to be sort of holding the energy for the first 2 weeks of May before we get into that sort of Jupiter expansion timeframe. So that's going to be a critical time. I mean, the sevens, it's about choices. The sevens are about sometimes regret of not making the right choices. So you're still in time, so to speak, to make the right choices and position yourself, even though you might have to still deal with the defensive stance of April. But, it's going to give you that, it's going to give you much better positioning. And of course the market, you can forecast some of these erratic moves like the 10-10 flush and things like that. You can understand that there might be some transits that you can call out that can give you a warning sign of what has happened in the past and what can happen again in the future. But the market makers are really wise. They are also using astrology. They're also using geometry. They're also understand the mathematics behind these moves. And they're going to take that into their advantage. So for example, if we have a window, if we have, let's say, two negative windows in a particular month, and the harder transit is coming around window number 2, but the first negative window, they can literally take the price targets early during the first negative window and then just still give us a low on the second window, but it will be more of a higher low this time when everyone was expecting the lower low to come on the second window. That's very typical And they do this all the time because they are the ones that can push the price. They're the ones with the big, big pockets. But all we can do is be on the right side of the market when the astrology tells us to and ride that coattail, right? So that's what we're trying to do here. And basically, if we, from that perspective, right, positioning yourself in April, even if beginning of May, sweeps some more lows or, sweeps some more liquidity to the downside to make that move that it needs to make in May, it's okay. You already position yourself, you're already in um, the train, so to speak, right? But the last few wagons are going to leave towards the end of May, towards the end of April. So positioning yourself now in the lows of, that first April 16th, when, we're finally in the eights, we're gonna see everything sort of, like that perspective of the Eight of Swords, where we have the blindfolds on and we can't see past our noses, but the truth is there, and you can pull that rag right out of your face and lift the veil and see things for what they really are. So then in June we have again more selective longs, and it's still the energy is going to be a little bit up and down, but by then you'll already be in the rise, so to speak. You're already preparing yourself for now taking that exit in July, and you're gonna see the euphoria. You're gonna see we're so back again, and all of the things that Ty was talking about. That card with the Four of Hearts, and the Saturn card also coming in and just kind of reminding everyone that it's not all roses, not all party time, but you have the information now. So this is the primary accumulation window now, before that July exit zone. And a couple of, if I were to break it down in terms of transits, right? So in April, what I'm looking at Saturn squaring the ascendant. I didn't give you that slide. I didn't give you those transits, Ty, so it's
Oh,
not gonna be on that slide. That's only for the weekly, but I'm looking at the monthly larger transits here. But I'm looking at Saturn squaring the ascendant for early April. And then, Uranus entering the 11th house, as well as Saturn then trining the MC. So these kind of come at the very beginning and towards the very end. So basically it's like this month of April, it's we're trying to identify early in the month where the trend is going. And as you saw from early in April, we did had a retrace, but it was quickly absorbed by this, by buyers, and we've been grinding up since then. And so, with that Saturn transiting, the MC towards the end of the month, yeah, we're gonna still have to deal with some defensive stance and volatility towards the end of the month, but that's just going to be a blessing. It's the last opportunities for buying that you're gonna have before, you know, um, these moves kick in, as Saturn is going to sextile the nodes after May 16th, which goes back to your card there on May 12th. And so, you're gonna see the recovery acceleration after that card. So, I have between that May 12th to that May 16th entry window. So that's going to be a perfect time as well. And then in June, right, I'm looking at Neptune sextiling Mercury again. And then Saturn wait, I can never say that transit. It's
I don't even try.
okay, whatever. Um, I'm just gonna skip that one, but it all comes in on June 17th. So you can see that you're already going to be between that you know, um, that Uranus position and that Neptune position there. So that's the building towards that July peak. And it's going to be a strong continuation from that May original push that then gets kind of like, slowed down by that Saturn position, but it all makes sense. And it's the time to, get back on the defensive uh, by trailing your stops and tightening your SLs into profit as as we approach that peak zone. And then, of course, like I said, right in July again with Jupiter going retrograde, and we have a couple of oppositions happening in July as well. It's an area where the harvesting window is going to begin. Just like you said about the diamonds coming in after July, right? Is the harvest is when
Right.
all your hard work starts to pay off and you got to get the fuck out of Dodge.
Yeah. And,
So,
especially because, Bitcoin itself is a jack of spades and we're in a jack of spades year. It's like, that harvest, we're moving into that diamond cycle, but that harvest might come like really quick. Like it might be in that Mercury cycle. You know what I mean? Because
mhm.
the jack of spades, he is the deceiver and he likes to pull the head fakes and he can either be the spiritual warrior or the time traveler, the magician, the deceiver. And we see that in Bitcoin a lot. There's people, Bitcoin maxis, people, they love Bitcoin and they love everything about Bitcoin, and and it's a true source of like idealism for them. And then also there's a lot of people who just get wrecked by Bitcoin, so that's also the other side. But
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And then one last thing I wanted to add is how everyone was talking about this, November 2022 drop, the FTX drop, and the 52K and the 40K and and I kept telling people like, I know we're still gonna have some retraces. I know there's still some liquidity to the downside that has to be swept before we go any higher into the 80s and 90s and hundreds or whatever. But that being said, what my analysis was telling me is that actually the structural transit similarities with the FTX collapse, in truth, it's in an inverted polarity right now because of the transits that were going on at that time come sort of in a suit, for lack of a better word. They come in a sometimes these transits come in pairs. They have two peaks or they hit twice. Sometimes these transits come in threes and they hit three times. And so we're at the end of that cycle that where the energy typically flips. So and so it's more of an inverted polarity. So where people were looking at as a down move is actually an up move. So back then was a catastrophic breakdown, but this time is a recovery to follow up. So it's an opposite directional outcome. And so the March 2026 eclipse low was the buying opportunity, okay, for the Q2 recovery ride. And so, it's interesting to see how people decode, cycles and transits. And just because the moves look similar and the fractal looks similar doesn't mean that it's going to be identical. Sometimes it literally flips. And I talked about this with my group sometimes when, we might post a fractal and it literally flips. And but the beauty of it is that you can forecast when that happens, right? So and this will be one of those cases. And so we're gonna see the opposite of what many people were expecting.
And also, it makes you look at these times of uncertainty and accumulation and adjustment and change. It makes you look at them a lot differently when you kind of see where the target is and where the energy is going. It makes you a lot calmer while you're trading, but also it's just looking ahead at the cards, looking ahead at the Astro. It's like you're driving down the street and you finally turned on your headlights. Like, oh my God, like what a relief, right? So,
Seriously.
yeah,
Awesome.
cool.
Well, I'm gonna check real quick to see actually if anyone has any questions or comments that they want to add. They can either put it on below the stream as a comment on X, or they can type it on YouTube. And I guess we have a few people from Brazil watching, and hello to Brazil. As you can see there, Aquila 7622. Thanks for your comments.
Yeah, thank you.
But yeah, if there's no questions right now, we'll just move into this week's um forecast, and then we'll go from there.
All right, cool. Sounds good. Yeah, I know this has been a jam-packed one. Lots of info from both of us
I know they're
this
gonna
week.
have to rewatch this like a couple times.
Yeah, totally. Well, we'll keep the weekly spread. We'll keep it light here.
Short, yeah.
So weekly energy. So last week, yeah, we had the two of clubs, card of communication, balance, like you said, can also be the card of arguing. So now we've progressed one more week. So there's 52 weeks in the year. So every week we just progress a card. And now our weekly energy is going to be the three of clubs. So three of clubs, this is like the inventor's mind. You know what I mean? This is uh, a card of collaboration, also a card of like creativity. This can also be
The
a card of
visionary too, right?
exactly visionary. This is someone who's like they're this is new ideas coming in. So the clubs are all about the mental realm. And so the three here is exploration through the mind in the mental realm. So it's just like this is a person who like is going to be super if it's a person is going to be like super multi-talented, lots of projects going on, super creative, definitely like bubbly and talkative and stuff. Um but yeah, when we're talking about like the mundane, we're talking about like the world here. It's like, yeah, this can be a card of kind of like indecision, worry, another card of like a lot of news this week, like lots of
Yep,
conflicting
yep.
news like we saw last
Mm-hmm.
week.
Mm-hmm.
But also on the positive side though, like away from the markets and away from like things like the war and things like that, it's like this is a card where we could see like a huge breakthrough in like tech or medical or like
Yeah.
something high like uh how do I describe it? It's like not tech like a car. It's not like utilitarian tech, but more like Aquarius type tech. You know what I mean? Like it's more
Mm-hmm.
universal, it's more like humanitarian type tech. We could see a breakthrough in that realm this week, which could be something fun to just watch for when you're scrolling, see if you see something, be like, oh yeah, there's that three of clubs a week.
Yep.
So
Yep. I
yeah,
would
so we
agree.
start off. Oh, go ahead.
No, so I would agree.
Oh, okay. Yeah, totally.
Not much more to add to that.
Yeah, totally. Um, So yeah, we start off with the Eight of Diamonds. So the Eight of Diamonds is a super powerful card for like finance, because it's the eight, and then also the diamonds rule the material realm and what we value. So it's like the power through money and the power through values. So yeah, it's been a volatile weekend. Like I saw the futures like gap down right when they opened. And so seeing where price is kind of going this evening and now seeing what our card is for Monday. Typically, if we get this like in the middle of the week or things were going fine and there wasn't a bunch of news, I'd be like, wow, this is super bullish. Like long your longs, this is crazy. But seeing what we have going on, I see this as more of like a stability foundation type.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're kind of resetting from
Mm-hmm.
all the volatility that kind of happened when the futures open. Like we're kind of just resetting back to normal. And
Yep.
and that takes a lot of power because it's like we have a lot of communication going on. We have a lot of energy going on. There's a lot of money flying around. So it takes a lot of money to rebalance the market and make it look like everything's okay on Monday.
literally as we're like hitting 70K again.
Yeah. Well, and also the numerology here of the day, it's like we have a 9, that's a completion, but also 18, like when we take that back over into the tarot, that's the moon. And the moon is like kind of receptive, can be illusions, you know what I mean? It's not really gonna stick. And so
Mhm.
definitely, yeah, if it looks like we're like ripping right off open, like I would just yeah, just be cautious, I would say, like
Yeah, that's
tomorrow.
gonna be deceptive. Yep,
Mhm.
100%.
Because then we follow up on Tuesday with that 7. And so the 7 of diamonds, I've talked about before, is the slot machine card. So this can be the card of extreme gain or extreme loss. And so it can be like, yeah, it can be an awesome, awesome card if things are working in your favor, and which they very well could be on with one energy here. But again, caution because of the seasonal cycle we're in. Now you guys have like a wider view onto the cards that are being at play here, and so now when we're going day by day, remember that we have, we have these cards up above them at the macro level. So we're still finishing off like the 5 for the first start of the week. And
Yep.
then we're gonna flip over into the 8 of spades when we actually play the 5 of diamonds. How funny is that? Like we play the 5 of diamonds then on the macro level.
Yeah, so I would agree with that. So this week, there's very important dates. They're important pivot dates and they're important astrological dates. So when we talk about pivot dates, it could be two different kinds of pivots. There's numerology pivots, which are, no, number cycles. So like 30-day cycles, 28-day cycles, 60-day cycles, etc. Um, these are just mathematical, cycles. Like some people use them, when they use Hertz cycles, etc. And then then there's astrological ones like Gan square of 9, or just simply transit cycles, right? So there's a lot happening this week, especially the beginning of the week. So you know, um, we have Neptune. I'll call it the Neptune double hit. This week we have very speculative peaks happening. So on April 13th, we have and these are being caused by two conjunctions that I already talked about. So Neptune conjuncting Mars on April 13th. So, I like to look at that as again a speculative peak. So it might look like we're so back again. But not to be trusted necessarily, because it's an illusionary speculative spike. And it's driven by Mars, so it could look solid when it's not. Typically, people associate like Neptune with like a foggy or mystical perspective that doesn't give you clarity, because when you look at the element, right, like right now with Mars being fire and Neptune being water, vapor, mist, fog is created, sort of giving you that lack of clarity, right? And it's not until that dissipates that the illusion kind of, the the blind fold that you had kind of moves away, and the movement becomes more clear, right? And so just you got to look at that. Also, Neptune dissolves boundaries which are set by Mars, and so you can see things unfolding that like breakouts and things like that. And it's okay to be on the ride, and it's okay to take the move. You just have to be wise about it, and make sure you have good risk management so you don't round trip that bitch when it comes right back down on Tuesday. But aside from that, right, it's still like a good time. This week is going to be a good time to position yourselves, for nice volatility to the upside. You just have to be careful because again, things like what just happened to yesterday on the 11th. Well, we hit that 73.8 and then we just literally bolted right back down. That's a lot of what you're going to see this week. But besides that, it's still a lot of room for making money. So, and then, the second Neptune conjunction is on the 17th. So adding to what you said there, and I'll let you talk about that one, and then I'll add to it.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, the 17th, I guess, yeah, just to get there, yeah, so we talked about the six already. So balance. So we're gonna have a super volatile move with the slot machine card, and then we balance it out on Wednesday. And then the five of diamonds, right when we flip into the Venus cycle on the seasonal. So this can be exploratory. With a three here too, there's a lot of this is an action-packed day. There's no doubt about it. um, Based on the position with the balance, and if we're like rebalancing and we're just kind of holding a position, I could see this being possibly like bearish. But then Friday with the 22 energy, and then also the four of diamonds on Friday, I could definitely see a recovery here.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
we ride through the weekend. And so three of diamonds is good, because it's going to be positive, exploring those values, like we said. So probably riding a little bit of this steam into Saturday. And then Sunday, this is card of partnership. This is card number 28. And this is so 2 and 8 together, power through partnerships. This is also the New York Stock Exchange's card. So I expect Sunday possibly some news out of nowhere. I can't really say if it's like positive or negative or whatever, but I definitely see this being
yeah.
another news driven, weekend driven news cycle that's going to
Yeah,
like set us up for futures open.
exactly. Beautifully put. So adding to what I was saying and to what you're saying about the 17th, right? So that's when we have that Neptune conjunction with Mercury. And so now we're bringing the news, and we're bringing data-driven, news-driven action. That again, it's gonna lack some clarity at first, but now that you guys have this information, you can make much better decisions. But what this means is like a heightened speculative psychology. It's gonna be bubble-like price action, and it's going to be like news driven, and uh you know sort of hidden agendas or hidden things coming to the surface. So always verify your data, your setups, right? And watch the narratives for this week. And prepare for sustainable speculative moves that even though they might not seem solid at first, they will solidify as the week moves towards the end. And what's interesting about what's going to happen from April onward is that in the past 2 months, we've have seen quiet weekends, but that's going to start to change. A lot of moves are going to happen during the weekend, so you're going to have to stay alert, especially if you're a swing trader and you leave your positions open over the weekends. The opens are going to be very volatile again, so it's something to watch for. Like you said, right? Like the 16th, potentially being like lows, that, or a retrace from earlier in the week that you can rebuy into the weekend. And but with the 17th being the new moon, right? And this new moon is falling in the final degrees of Aries, which is the most mature expression of that cardinal sign. It's like it kind of signifies an ending of sorts, but yet a beginning. So if I can explain what I'm trying to say there, is that whatever like it's ending over the weekend, or whatever retraces you get, like you said, on the 19th there, that's just going to be another setting up for the next week, and next week is going to be even better than this week. Um, in terms of like length, duration of move, and sustainability of energy and price action. So this week is where you want to position and take some profit and use that profit to invest into the final moves of April. So that's going to be kind of like what I'm seeing for this week.
Yeah, beautifully put. Yeah, because you guys can probably see what the progression is here. We go down. So then on Monday, we're actually going to start off with that awesome Ace of Diamonds, which is that new beginning of,
Yeah,
finance
you
and
definitely
values.
want to yeah, you want to start taking some some action next week for sure as well.
Yep,
It's gonna be
absolutely.
it's gonna be good, I think, overall. Like, yeah, we're gonna have some downside, but it's all gonna be just buying opportunities for, peaks that we're gonna see this week and definitely up moves for next week. So
Yep, you guys all saw what's coming next. So now it's like you look at a week like this where it's like if you just took a snapshot of it, you'd be like, oh, that's kind of like a weird defensive week. But looking ahead, you're like, oh, this is an awesome opportunity. And there's still gonna be fun to be had intraday. So
yeah,
yeah, couldn't ask
yeah, I
for
see it as
a better
I
week.
see it as like a good volatility to have, meaning like, you're gonna make money, not just like volatility, oh, just straight down to the downside or whatever. Like there'll be opportunities throughout the day for intraday, and then the whole week is a setup for next week. So it's good stuff. Like we're up and coming, guys. Like we're almost there.
We're almost there. It's almost party time. Remember? Party time's
Yeah.
coming.
That is almost going on vacation.
Yeah.
We're like putting out the flyers and buying the booze. Oh my God, back to like the 90s house parties and shit.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I was like a stereo. Do I say a stereo? Like I don't even know. But
Do people even know what that is?
yeah.
You gotta watch the 80s movies just to even remember what the fuck that was. Well, Ty, thanks again for yet another awesome week, another awesome episode. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Thank you so much for supporting our craft, for liking and sharing our work. You can always catch our replays in, our feeds here on X and also in YouTube. The one thing is that when we're streaming live, YouTube usually cuts my feed of the live. So I will just post the full episode once we end here and I can load it up. And then you can either rewatch it there or from where it left off, or you can just hop on X. X is kind of weird too because they will keep my, you know, our stream on my feed, but they I don't know, they make it so small in a one line that sometimes people miss it and they can't even see that it's there. But our restreams, our replays are in the feed. You just kind of have to scroll um every Sunday. That's where you will find them. And of course, you can always comment and let us know what you might be interested in seeing for some of our next events and or people you might want us to invite and see them join us for these chats. I was thinking of asking Crypto Waterman to join us one of these days. I know he's more on the shy side, but I would love to see his numerology perspective on some of these things. I think it's super cool what he does, and I love his page as well. So, Ty, any last words before
Yeah,
we say goodbye, everybody?
yeah, just yeah, thanks to everybody. And like you were saying about the streams, I think X like they process them or something for like 30 minutes, an hour or whatever, and then you can't see the video. So I think I know what you're talking about. But yeah, it does pop back up and the videos will always be on YouTube and our feeds. Yeah, if you guys have any questions about the cards, cardology, I'm an open book. Just hit me up, drop a comment, I'll post. If you're interested in a reading, hit me up. People have been loving them and super appreciative. And yeah, thank you to everyone. Um, and yeah, looking forward to talking with you guys again next week. We got yeah another awesome one lined up. So yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Sai. Once again, it's always an honor and a pleasure to do these with you and so much fun. Thank you to everyone for again supporting our craft, sharing, commenting, and liking. And yeah, we'll see you next Sunday.
yep. We'll see you next time. Thanks everybody.
Bye. Stay